Serse is an opera seria in 3 acts by George Frideric Handel. It was first performed in London on April 15, 1738. The Italian libretto was adapted by an unknown hand from that by Silvio Stampiglia for an earlier opera of the same name by Giovanni Bononcini in 1694. Stampiglia's libretto was itself based on one by Nicolò Minato that was set by Francesco Cavalli in 1654. The opera is set in Persia in 480 BC and is very loosely based upon Xerxes I of Persia, though there is little in either the libretto or music that is relevant to that setting. Serse, originally sung by a castrato, is now usually performed by a mezzo-soprano, contralto or countertenor. The opening aria, Ombra my fu, sung by Xerxes to a plane tree, is set to one of Handel's best-known melodies, and is often known as Handel's Largo. Composition history: in late 1737 the King's Theatre, London commissioned Handel to write 2 new operas. The first, Faramondo, was premiered on January 3, 1738. By this time, Handel had already begun work on Serse. The first act was composed between December 26, 1737 and January 9, 1738, the second was ready by January 25, the third by February 6, and Handel put the finishing touches to the score on February 14. Serse was first performed at the King's Theatre, Haymarket on April 15, 1738. The first production was a complete failure. The audience may have been confused by the innovative nature of the work. Unlike his other operas for London, Handel included comic elements in Serse. Although this had been typical for 17th-century Venetian works such as Cavalli's original setting of the libretto, by the 1730s an opera seria was expected to be wholly serious, with no mixing of the genres of tragedy and comedy or high and low-class characters. The musicologist Charles Burney later took Serse to task for violating decorum in this way, writing, "I have not been able to discover the author of the words of this drama, but it is one of the worst Handel ever set to music, for besides feeble writing, there is a mixture of tragic comedy and buffoonery in it, which Apostolo Zeno and Metastasio had banished from serious opera." Another unusual aspect of Serse is the number of short, one-movement arias, when a typical opera seria of Handel's time was almost wholly made up of long, three-movement da capo arias. This feature particularly struck the Earl of Shaftesbury, who attended the premiere and admired the opera. He noted the airs too, for brevity's sake, as the opera would otherwise be too long, fall without any recitative intervening from one into another, that 'tis difficult to understand till it comes by frequent hearing to be well known. My own judgment is that it is a capital opera notwithstanding 'tis called a ballad one. It is likely that Handel had been influenced, both as regards the comedy and the absence of da capo arias, by the success in London of ballad operas such as The Beggar's Opera and John Frederick Lamb's The Dragon of Wantley, the latter of which was visited by Handel. Performance history: Serse disappeared from the stage for almost 200 years. It enjoyed its first modern revival in Gar Paragraftingen on July 5, 1924 in a version by Oscar Hagen. By 1926 this version had been staged at least 90 times in 15 German cities. Serse's success has continued. According to Winton Dean, Serse is Handel's most popular opera with modern audiences after Julius Caesar. The very features which 18th-century listeners found so disconcerting, the shortness of the arias and the admixture of comedy, may account for its appeal to the 20th and the 21st centuries. Serse was produced for the stage at the La Scala Theatre in Milan, Italy in January 1962. The production was conducted by Piero Belligi, and an all-star cast featuring Mira Eleni, Rolando Panerai, Fiorenzo Cossuto, Irene Companese, Leonardo Monreal, Franco Calabrese, and Luigi Alva in the title role. Because Handel operas were still in a relatively early stage of their return to the stage, musicians had not yet thought to ornament the da capo sections of the arias and thus, they were not ornamented. There is a live recording from January 19, 1962 available on the Opera d'Oro label. A complete recording was made in 1979. A particularly highly acclaimed production, sung in English, was staged by the English National Opera in 1985, to mark the 300th anniversary of the composer's birth. Conducted by Sir Charles Mackerras, it was directed by Nicholas Hittner, who also translated the libretto, and starred Anne Murray in the title role, with Valerie Masterson as Romilda, Christopher Robson as Arsaman, and Leslie Garrett as Atalanta. The production returned for a sixth revival to the London Coliseum in September 2014, starring Alice Coote as Xerxes. Roles. Synopsis: King Xerxes, looking up from contemplation of his beloved plane tree, sees Romilda, the daughter of his vassal Ariodate, and makes up his mind to marry her. However, Romilda and Xerxes' brother, Arsaman, love each other, while Romilda's sister, Atalanta, is also determined to make Arsaman hers. A master, Xerxes' fiancée copyrightee, forsaken by him for Romilda, disguises herself as a man and observes Xerxes. Xerxes banishes Arsaman, who sends a note to Romilda through his servant Elviro, disguised as a flower vendor, pledging his eternal fidelity. He gives it to Atalanta to pass on, and she promptly hatches a plot. She tells Elviro that Romilda has given up on Arsaman and decided to be queen, and shows the note to Xerxes, claiming that it was addressed to herself. Xerxes determines to marry Arsaman off to Atalanta and shows the note to Romilda, who nevertheless decides to stay true to the man she loves. The scene changes to the bridge over the Hellespont. Xerxes tells Ariodate that his daughter Romilda must wed, by the king's command, a member of Xerxes' family, equal in blood to himself. Xerxes pursues Romilda until a master in disguise starts a fight as a distraction. Romilda persuades Xerxes to let her deal with the problem, and is pleased and gratified to learn that a master started it to rescue her. Arsaman and Romilda meet again and fight until Elviro drags Atalanta on to explain matters, and she declares that she'll find someone else. Elviro remarks on a storm threatening the bridge, then sings a ditty to Bacchus. Romilda and Arsaman are joyfully reunited, although she then has to hide him while his brother presses his suit. Romilda tells Xerxes that he must have her father's consent before she can obey the king's command. Arsaman is displeased. Xerxes reiterates to Ariodate that Romilda must wed a member of Xerxes' family, equal in blood to himself, who will appear at his home. Ariodate mistakenly thinks he is referring to his brother Arsaman rather than himself, and happily goes home to prepare the wedding. Xerxes then tells Romilda that she will marry him. Romilda reveals that Arsaman has kissed her. Xerxes declares that he will kill his own brother, and Romilda agrees to marry Xerxes to spare Arsaman's life. Arsaman and Romilda arrive at Ariodate's place, where he happily announces that they are to marry by King Xerxes' command. Disbelieving, they joyfully do so. After Arsaman and Romilda wed, Xerxes arrives, ready for his wedding and not at all happy to learn that his vassal has just married his bride off to his brother. When a master in disguise appears, Xerxes is calling out for someone to avenge him and wants to know what a master in disguise has been doing popping in and out of the entire opera. A master asks whether he wants her to kill the traitor, the one who, having been so dearly loved, went off chasing another. When he demands that she do so, she reveals herself to Xerxes, who becomes ashamed of his faithlessness and tells her to go ahead and kill him. A master, still in love with him, refuses, and Xerxes offers her his queen's crown once more. Historical motives. The libretto includes some motives that are based upon events that actually happened. Serse, a master and Arsaman are all based on historical persons. The story of Xerxes wanting to marry the love of his brother Arsaman is based upon a real story. In reality though, it was a wife of another brother Xerxes fell in love with but failed to marry himself. The collapsing of a bridge over the Hellespont and Xerxes returning from a successful campaign in Greece are real events during the reign of Xerxes, though they are anachronistic here. Media. Recordings: Westminster 1965, recorded at Mozart Hall, Vienna with Maureen Forrester, Lucia Popp, Marilyn Tyler, Mildred Miller, and Tom Hemsley with the Vienna Academy Chamber Choir and Vienna Radio Orchestra, Brian Priestman conducting. Released on CD by Deutsche Grammophon in 2009. CBS 1979, Carolyn Watkinson, Paul Eswood, Barbara Hendricks, and Ulrich Kold. Conducted by Jean-Claude Malgoa with La Grande Curie La Chambre du Roi, video 1995, British television broadcast of the English National Opera production with Anne Murray, and Valerie Masterson. Sung in English, it was conducted by Sir Charles Mackerras, and directed by Nicholas Hittner. Released on DVD by Arthorse Music. BMG 1998, Jennifer Smith, Lisa Milne, Susan Bickley, Brian Asor, and David Thomas conducted by Nicholas Majigan with the Hanover Band and Chorus. Emmy 2003, Anne-Sophie von Notter and Elizabeth Norberg Schultz with William Christie conducting Les Arts Florissants. Released by Virgin Veritas in 2004. References, notes, Best Pages 14, Dean in Opera and the Enlightenment, pages 135, AB Best Pages 15, Keats, pages 10. Opera and the Enlightenment pages 166. Dean calls Hagen's vocal score of Serse a grinning parody. Opera and the Enlightenment pages 135, Best Pages 18, Evan Dickerson, Seen and Heard Opera Review on Seen and Heard International website, retrieved October 2, 2014, William Hartston, Handel's Xerxes by the English National Opera, Astonishing Comedy, Glorious Fun, Daily Express, September 17, 2014. Accessed October 2, 2014. Herodotus, Histories, 9, 108-110, Sources, Dean, Winton, Handel's Operas, 1726-1741, Boydell Press, ISBN 1843832682. The second of the two-volume definitive reference on the operas of Handel, Winton Dean, Handel's Serse in Opera and the Enlightenment ed. Thomas Borman, Terence Best's Booklet Notes to the Virgin recording by Christie, Keats, Jonathan. Musical London 1737-38, in Xerxes, pages 10-13. External links, Serse, Scores at the International Music Score Library Project, libretto in Italian.